What happens when you spend a lot of time alone with yourself, with another person, or with a group of people? Sometimes it's a positive experience. Relationships grow. People have an opportunity for self introspection, the opportunity for growth. But realistically, what happens when people are stuck together for a long time, it leads to that famous quote, Gehenna is other people, although the word is not Gehenna. And people start to notice each other's faults. Now, it's important that when someone is hurting you, when there's something you do that's wrong, it's important to have an open communication. But if we picked on every fault that we saw in ourselves and other people, we would end up being alone pretty much forever. So the question is, how do we strike that balance? What do we do when we notice other people's faults? Should we ever ignore them? And this question is explored in a beautiful midrash in this week's parasha Bereishit. And as we're entering this new Jewish year and finishing one other year, it's so important for us to recognize what battles we need to pick around us, because there are some very important ones in this world. There are things to fight for and fight against, but we can't pick every battle. We can't get annoyed by every single thing. That's kind of been the theme of 2020. Oh, well, this again, that's so 2020. This annoying thing, it's so 2020. But what is that doing to us? If we don't accept some of the things in this world that we don't love, it just eats away at us. And instead of hating a handful of things, we end up hating everything. So in this parasha, where Hashem wants to set the stage right for creation, a sense of gratitude, a sense of love, he has to start that with the first human beings. So the first human being that he creates is Adam. And at least according to some of the midrashim, Adam is neither man nor woman. He is a single being beyond gender, beyond sex. But then Hashem realizes that there needs to be some sort of, not tension, but some opportunity for people to work off of each other. So he decides to create Adam into two different beings, male and female. And he splits Adam in half, a sela, and he either takes a literal side, half, or at least a rib, which seems to be the literal understanding of the Torah. And he takes that rib, and from it he forms Chava, Eve. But the Torah is quite explicit. He doesn't just walk up to Adam and say, here, let me have some of those Adam's ribs with a side of coleslaw, and rips it out of him. He puts Adam to sleep, not permanently, puts him down for a nap, puts a sleep upon him. And this led to a very interesting midrash. And there's actually a very typical model of these midrashim and in the Talmud as well, where you have a non-Jewish, particularly often Roman leader, who asks these challenging theological questions of rabbis. It's unlikely that most of these ever happened, or maybe they happen to some other rabbi. They're usually a vehicle to ask some big questions that the rabbis, may feel uncomfortable asking themselves, but they want to be able to explore it. So there's this story of this matrona, of this Roman noblewoman who's asking Rabbi Yossi, so in the Roman occupation of Israel, and she asks a couple of questions. Why did Hashem just take as if he stole a rib from Adam? And then her second question, and she says here in the Midrash, Bereishit Rabbah, Amra lo, she said to him, Lama mematmoniot. Why did she take the rib of Adam while he was sleeping? Why wasn't he awake for the experience? And then Rabbi Yossi responds to her, and again, even though this is midrashic, it's really beautiful. He says, "Ve'amar la b'tchila bera'alo." He said in the beginning, that is what he did. And when she was shown, or when she was seen to Adam, ve'ra'ota mle'a ririn vedam, that when she was first created, just like a newborn child, she had like blood and fluid and liquid. It was grotesque, even though it was part of the natural process of creation or birth, really. When he saw it, when Adam saw it, he fligami mena. He was disgusted. He was repulsed by her and wouldn't have a relationship with her. So Hashem realized he needed to do it differently. So Chazar uvra'alo pa'am shnia. So Hashem went back and he created Chava a second time. And this again is a beautiful side lesson about second chances, and that creation is a process that develops over time, and Hashem works with us through creation and grows with us in some way. But he did it a second time, and when Adam woke up, Chava was there. She had her hair done. She was wearing a beautiful dress. She was in the nude, but she was ready to go, and he fell in love with her right away. But one possible takeaway from this is the idea that there are certain realities about people that it's not that we want to willfully ignore, but we need to accept them despite that. And one of the ways we do that is to say, I would be really annoyed if I focus on the way that my friend eats, the way that my friend uses the word like this, like that all the time. But you know what? I love them, and I'm not going to let that annoy me, so I'm going to ignore it. And again, as I said earlier, there are certain things that we should not accept. Hatred, bigotry. We cannot accept those in our friends. But there are certain things that annoy the dickens out of us, and it leads to this very important message, which is that true love is loving someone despite their flaws. And the message of this midrash might be, it's okay to ignore and not pay attention to every little thing that might turn you off from a person. So don't pick every single battle. Don't think about the flaws of a person. Say, you know what? Nobody's perfect. I'm not going to focus on that. I'm going to actually stay away from that. I know that this person, when they're really hungry or they're really tired, they're really mean, or this person, when they start talking about sports, they just annoy me. So you know what? I'm not going to talk about sports with them, or I'm not going to talk about politics with them. But I can still love them despite the fact I know they have that flaw, because my love for them goes beyond their flaws. And to build a deeper, lasting relationship, we have to accept those flaws, but don't engage in them. Don't fight every battle, because then it'll just turn into a war. So again, as we face the remainder of 2020 and this new year 5781, and we think about our relationship and what strains them, we have to make a decision. What's worth sleeping through and what's worth being awake for? And if we can strike that balance, then we can not only grow closer to people, but we can express the true love we have for them despite the things that might really get on our nerves. And it's not easy to find that balance, but again, if you care about someone, and if you care about yourself, sometimes it's okay to ignore your bad habits as long as they're not damaging yourself and others. And if you're not sure what battles to pick, ask for help. Ask somebody. You don't have to do this alone. So as we start this new year, set your priorities. Think about what's truly important to you that you must stand up for, and then to decide the things that, you know what, they're annoying. I'm going to stop scrolling on Facebook, doom scrolling at 2 o'clock in the morning. But if we can do that, we can live a much more productive life full of love and stronger relationships. With that, I wish everyone a Shabbat Shalom. Be well.